Talking about last week and what he expects going forward.
You know what's amazing to me about Deshaun Watson?
What's amazing to you about Deshaun Watson?
You know, say this for the man. He is consistent. He has shown no remorse for anything. No remorse for anything in the offseason. No remorse for anything that has been alleged. And no remorse for the awful passing attack that the Cleveland Browns put out yesterday. Like, not like I got to do better. Like, you just heard that clip.
He is a bastion of consistency.
I mean, like, right? It's just like nothing is his fault. Nothing at all. He just, no, self-reflection is not a big part of.
Can we get Jacoby Brissett back in there?
Yeah.
Jacoby was such a good story.
We like Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett.
We like Jacoby Brissett.
Oh, boy. All right, Pat.
Anyway, no remorse.
No remorse. Pat,
that should be his nickname, No Remorse Watson.
Any chance that Deshaun Watson gets back on track, this Browns offense becomes what they thought that they were going to be when they paid him?
I don't even think they're going to try. I think they're going to go run heavy here against the Bengals. They just talked about how the Chiefs went run heavy against this team. If the Chiefs are going run heavy, you know the Browns are. Last week they operated their offense a lot like the Falcons in terms of their pass rate relative to game script. So I think they're going to lean into the run. They're not going to want another disastrous performance from Watson. That looks terrible for them.
It was absolutely brutal. Deshaun Watson made the hate list this week. So many reasons why I could put him on there.
It's going to be hard when he makes the love list.
But specifically why I put him on from a fantasy football context is this matchup with a Bengals team that has allowed over 2 touchdown passes this year once. Only one time. They allowed touchdown passes at the 4th lowest rate. And then you think about what we saw last week in Houston. Brutal. There's literally nothing that you can hang your hat on to say, like, I feel good about starting him, other than memories from over 700 days ago. You know, when he was with Houston, when he was with a team that had an awful defense, and they played in the dome, and he had to constantly chuck it up. And he also was running a lot. And we didn't see any evidence last week that Deshaun Watson wants to run, you know, and that he's going to use his legs from a fantasy football perspective. So now, and also, by the way, the Browns have a decent defense.
The Bengals.
I'm sorry. The Browns have a decent. So my point is like, right. He's not going to be in. Yeah. He didn't have to go crazy against the Texans, obviously. Maybe he gets into comeback mode against the Bengals. They are 5.5-point underdogs here to Cincinnati, but still, I don't mind hanging on to him if you've held him this long, just to see if you see a sign of life. But until you see it on the field, I can't imagine starting him.
His situation is far less grim than that, but I think that Amari Cooper, certainly from a football perspective, on the road, which is never what you want for Amari Cooper, is he someone that you can start with confidence?
No, I wouldn't say confidence. I'm at wide receiver 18. It's a week with 6 teams on a bye, and Amari Cooper, who's been awesome this year, comes in at wide receiver 18. If there's something to be positive about, he did have a 41% target share with Deshaun Watson, such as that passing game was. He's had over 9 targets in 3 straight games, including 2 of the last 3 with 12 targets. So the volume is there.
Yep.
Can they connect? So that's what you're hanging your hat on, is just his own personal talent and volume, and you're hoping that Watson is at least somewhat better from last week to this week, another game under his belt. But no, I have no I'm not starting with confidence like, no worries here.
Yeah, not at all. And to your point about the Browns defense, I think if you're betting on Amari Cooper, you're also betting on Joe Burrow, because you need the Bengals to be pushing the Browns to where they finally just start chucking it.
Yep. Okay, let's talk about the Bengals offense. Pat, what are the expectations with Joe Mixon back in the fold?
Yeah, I'm not, thinking too much changes here, to be honest. I think Samaje Perine, very talented backup running back. I think kind of in the mold of an Alexander Madison, where he can come in and do everything, and they trust him to do everything. But I don't know that they're going to necessarily put a ton more on his plate now that Mixon's back.
Yep. Anything we can do with Samaje Perine? Can we still keep him in our lives in any way, Matthew?
It's certainly close to our hearts. We love Samaje Perine. Hey, look, Zach Taylor came out and said, hey, the expectation here is that Joe Mixon is still the starter. That's what he said, was just, he's the starter. I think Perine, first off, Perine was getting used at least a little bit, like on 3rd down prior to Mixon's injury. What I would say is that you don't love, until we see it, hard to know. Look, the positives here are, again, 6 teams on a bye. The Browns are a really good matchup for running backs, and maybe, especially in a game in which they're almost a touchdown favorite, as we said, they're 5.5-point favorites, maybe Perine gets some junk time, sort of salting this away. In Mixon's first game back, they may not want to carry it here. I'm at running back 29 because, again, the workload is just so up in the air. So he's a he's a risky flex. He's a risk-reward flex.
Yep. Okay, let's briefly stay in the AFC North and just talk about J.K. Dobbins, who came back to practice. We'll see what his availability is like going forward, but Lamar Jackson out this week. Any interest, Matthew, in this backfield going forward, or everyone is just a no-go until someone emerges out of Dobbins, Edwards, Drake? It's been the same dance all year long. Justice Hill took a turn on the merry-go-round.
I think it's tough to trust anyone here. I think J.K. Dobbins basically says, listen, if last week's Gus Edwards performance didn't turn you off from him, the fact that J.K. Dobbins is probably splitting touches with him should. You don't love the matchup on the road at Pittsburgh. I think Huntley will be fine as a backup quarterback. By the way, worth noting that Lamar Jackson did not practice again today. Certainly does not look like he's going to play on Sunday. Hasn't practiced all week. So it will be the Tyler Huntley show, at least that's what we expect on the road at Pittsburgh. But Steelers are a top 5 run defense over the last month. And so in a game in which neither guy really has a lot of passing game usage, feels tough to trust either one of them. To me, they're both if you start them, you're hoping they fall into the end zone.
Yeah, and it's so hard to predict which guy's even going to be leading in snaps. It looked like it was Gus Edwards 2 weeks ago, then it's Kenyon Drake. Projecting what J.K. Dobbins' snap share is going to be in his first game back, you're just guessing.
Yeah,
okay.
100%.
Pat, Jets, my New York Jets, are 10-point road underdogs at the Bills. Looks like there's going to be snow in that game as well, which always complicates things. Is there any Jets pass catcher that you want outside of Garrett Wilson?
Ooh.
Nope. I think Elijah Moore, his route rate was up last week, so you're starting to think of him on the path to getting to where we're actually going to be able to start him again. But in terms of the target rate, it's still Corey Davis ahead of him, and I think Moore is maybe a couple weeks away from where we feel comfortable.
Yeah, I don't mind. That's one that, again, I don't love stashes at this point of the season, but I do think that based on his talent and how good the offense has looked under Mike White, I don't mind having Elijah Moore on the bench here. But I'm with you on that. If I had, in terms of how I've ranked the Jets wide receivers, Garrett Wilson is obviously a must start. Corey Davis comes in at wide receiver 33 for me. Did have 10 targets last week. Does have 70 yards or more in 4 of his 8 full games so far this year. He's playing at least 74% of the snaps in 6 of those 8 games. So the usage has been there, and they are heavy underdogs in this game to Buffalo. I think the line is now up to 10, believe it or not. So
in snow.
No
respect.
No respect at all for the Jets. I do think, again, Corey Davis is a, risk-reward wide receiver 4 in this one. I will say this, though. Go with me here for 1 second. It's snowing, right? It's going to snow in Buffalo on Sunday.
Yeah.
And so if Mike White goes in there and performs really well.
Snow King?
Snow White.
Snow White.
I thought you were going White Christmas.
Snow White. It could be a White Christmas as well, but Mike
King?
Snow White. I don't know why he went with Snow King, but I mean, take the layup, dude.
Oh,
why are you
dribbling the rim?
I mean, I opened the lane for you, and you decided to dribble out and jack a 3. What are you doing?
Mid-range.
Right.
I feel like I hit my 3.
Yeah, 1,000%. You did. Yeah, it's just him. It's just the Australian.
Tough week for Croucher.
You don't understand what I'm dealing with here on a daily basis, Pat.
Snow King.
Snow King. Winter is coming. What are we doing? Mike Snow White. Come on.
Yeah,
here we go, Snow White.
It just doesn't. It's not the most kind of commanding nickname, is it? White and shining armor.
That's one.
Yeah.
That could be
you came up with that on your own, right?
For that one.
Mike White desperately needs a nickname.
I'm a little worried about Mike White because he lit up the Bears pass defense, who were bad and then lost all their players, and then against the Minnesota pass defense, who he was okay against and delivered fantasy value, but also they don't have a good pass defense at all.
And he had to throw it 57 times to get to 369.
He also left an 80-yard Garrett Wilson touchdown on the table by missing a regulation throw, I would say. So let's see. I think Mike White's better than Zach Wilson. I believe that he can take my Jets to the playoffs, but we'll see what he does against a pretty good Bills defense in the snow.
But I'm putting it out there. If he goes into the snow and beats the Bills, Snow White.
Yeah, it's just
I'm just throwing it out there.
Does he really want to be called Snow White after a victory? He wants something commanding like the Snow King. Snow King? Now, Matthew, Michael Carter.
The Snow Lizard.
Or Bam Knight. Who do you want?
I want Bam Knight.
Okay.
I want Bam
somewhere in the Adebayo jersey.
Zonovan, as he's known to his mother. He's now had back-to-back games with over 100 yards from scrimmage and 17 touches each of those 3 games, 75% of the snaps. And the important thing is that, as we talked about, they like him. They don't want Michael Carter to be the guy. They think Michael Carter is much more of a third down back, of a passing down back. We've talked about this with Connor Rogers a couple of different times as well. He actually played in his very first game. He was playing 35% of the snaps as I dropped my pen over there somewhere. I'm so excited about Bam Knight. Even when Michael Carter was healthy, he's playing like 35% of the snaps, and I think his performance over the last couple of weeks would give the Jets confidence, especially in Carter's first game back here. If I'm starting a New York Jets running back, I prefer Bam Knight to Michael Carter against a Buffalo run defense that has been good but not impenetrable. No Von Miller in this game either on that defensive line. That certainly helps. So yeah,
hop on the bandwagon.
I have hopped on the bandwagon.
Matthew, I'm just thinking if Bam Knight walked into a party and say like in Australia in Melbourne,
sure,
and he walked in and he was introducing himself and he would be like, "Hi, my name's Zonovan, or you can call me Bam." Either way, Zonovan or Bam. It's just an absolute smorgasbord of brilliant names for this guy.
Both names better than Mike White.
Yeah, both names better than Mike White.
Or Bam Knight versus Mike
or
White.
Or Jay Croucher, for that matter.
Yeah, we need a nickname for Mike White. That's what we need.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that if I'm pitching Snow Queen.
There's definitely some Game of Thrones
Snow
potential
Queen.
there as well. All right, Devin
Snow
Singletary,
White.
James Cook, are either of these guys startable?
What about Vanilla Ice?
Okay.
What about Vanilla Ice if Mike White goes in there?
We're really, this is a half-court shot there.
I'm just,
Yeah.
It's a Friday. I'm goofy.
The Winter King. Anyway, Pat.
Ooh, I like that.
On the Bills' backfield, I honestly think you can think about both these guys here,
wow,
because it's a week with 6 teams on bye, because we're looking at a Bills team that 2 out of the last 3 weeks has gone with power personnel. Entering week 10, they were running 3 wide receiver sets on 75% of their snaps. They went with a heavy dose. Over half their snaps were not in 3 wide receiver sets. So you're getting 2 tight end sets, 2 running back sets. Those are running formations from the Bills, a very pass-heavy team. They did that against the Browns. They did that against the Patriots. They're now going against the Jets, who are weaker against the run than the pass. They obviously just beat the Bills. Josh Allen struggled in that game. Not that they're going to get completely away from the pass here, but I think they could be looking to be more balanced. And they've been effective when they've done this, because James Cook has been explosive. Devin Singletary has been very consistent. I think Singletary is more of a bet on a tight end, on a touchdown, and James Cook more of a bet on some short passing.
Okay, Matthew, before we head to break, just quickly, let's get into the Seattle game. Ken Walker didn't practice. DJ Dallas didn't practice. Who do you want in that backfield? And your options are really Travis Homer, Tony Jones.
I think Travis Homer is who I would want. He practiced yesterday in full. Worth noting that the Panthers allow the 8th most rushing yards per game this season. My expectation, you'd see some Tony Jones, but assuming Walker and DJ Dallas don't play, my expectation here is that Travis Homer gets the majority of work in a decent matchup against the Carolina Panthers. By the way, Geno Smith, just a quick note, showed up on the injury report yesterday. Nothing to be concerned about just yet, but just something to monitor, because he did a little thing with his shoulder. Yeah,
throwing shoulder as well, which isn't ideal. We're going to go to break. When we come back,
but it could be ideal for Travis Homer, who's a pass-catching running back. It could be some dump-offs
to
Travis Homer.
Maybe.
Because it's
choose your own adventure with Geno Smith.
Right.
We'll be back with Weekend Warriors.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.